I wonder if if we scheduled these lives ahead of time, will we get more people? I don't know.
I mean, if we have really specific things we need to cover, that might be intentional. That's what I need to do with Uncharted Phoenix to answer people's questions.
Okay. All right. Looks like some people are jumping in. Do we have topics? I don't even know what we're talking about today.
I mean, there's always something to talk about, but the first thing that comes to mind is talking about the bills that were signed. And
oh God, yeah. But Veteran Action posted a lot of great information.
Yeah.
I want to make a post about that, but I haven't had time yet.
Oh, especially since it covers the questions that we were talking about last time. It's like, what if you're the one getting arrested? They did a really good job of just summarizing the points, as well as mentioning a bill that I didn't even know was a thing.
I don't think I fully read the full post. Let's bring it up.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Just bring up my other phone. All right, so we're going to be talking about Poder in Action recently put out an Instagram post about a bunch of bills that have been passed here in Arizona. And so that's Poder in Action on Instagram. And it's literally the most recent post that they have. I just made a really quick video about the second most recent post about the police who shot that kid in Glendale. But here is the post. Obviously, it's backwards. Go to Instagram. You can check it out yourself.
No, don't whistle, please. Okay, I'll deal with it.
All right, so I'm going to read through this while she's dealing with the dog. Police laws update. Doug Ducey has signed 2 bills into law that allow police to further dodge accountability. HB 2319 limits our right to film the police, and HB 2721 regulates investigations into the police. Is that the one? Yeah. So these bills will harm our communities. So specifically, do you want me to read them all, or do you want to talk about it?
I mean, we can talk about it. I didn't even know that second one was a thing, and maybe they had posted about it before, but I just was sort of
might have missed it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but also it's like how much worse can they? I mean, how much worse can it get for accountability, right? While we're talking about this, I do want to mention that Tuesday, July 12th, they're having a meeting, Unidos meeting. They'll be discussing the concepts of abolition versus reform. And so we would love to try to make it to that if y'all are available to make it to that Poder meeting Tuesday, July 12th, 6 to 7. Virtual. You got to RSVP. The link is in the Poder in Action bio.
It's not on the calendar yet, but I'll make sure to put it on there right after this meeting. So if you guys want to click through on that, if you've been using the calendar. So.
But let's go over the filming police one real quick. So. Come here. All right. So we're fostering a puppy.
Come on.
So there's that. Police can charge people with a misdemeanor if they continue to film after being verbally warned. Okay, so this is important because cops just can't come and arrest you. They have to ask you, or they have to warn you once that it's going to escalate. That's important. So whether or not you want to get arrested about it, at that point when you're being warned, that's the point to make that decision. There are exceptions for people at the center of the police interaction. So if you're being stopped by the cops, then you're allowed to film. If you're on your own property and something's going down on your property, you're allowed to film. If you're stopped in your car, you're allowed to film. The recording cannot interfere with police actions. Honestly, that language is a little bit dangerous. I feel like it can definitely be manipulated to fuck people over, but that's the intention.
All right, I was just making sure that there was no questions. I do think somebody just said offer them a donut. Don't know how helpful that would be. Sorry, as we mentioned, we're fostering some animals and they're being rambunctious. I hear doors. All right, so HB 231, that's one I talked about a long time ago. Originally, that one was for 15 feet. They dropped it to 8 feet. We've discussed kind of a couple times about how that would be, obviously abused, where they could just move you around and say it's 8 feet. And I don't know where you left off because of the dogs.
No, I just covered that slide. So what are the exceptions, etc. Overall, I feel like we're just having an attack on us as activists and people resisting the system, and these two being signed in are not any good news whatsoever.
I mean, right alongside the abortion trigger law. I mean, this happened right before the Roe versus Wade things. That's why I kind of like didn't get covered. Like, I didn't even realize it happened because Roe versus Wade happened. So just like a couple days afterwards, somebody was like, "Hey, did you see the 8-foot thing pass?" I was like, "What? No, I did not. What?"
Yeah. So that's not good news. And so like how does that impact us like immediately? So we can probably name a few situations recently where they're chasing a cricket.
Oh.
Where the police have been doing stupid shit and we want to roll by and make sure everyone's okay. So
I mean, just like the one that I did release, I was within 8 feet. I walked right by the police officer recording with the person that didn't have brakes on their bicycle, and they rolled through a residential stop sign just nearby.
Right.
And so I mean, I don't think the cop knew I was recording, but like in that situation, you know, that cop could be like, I don't know, arrest me. I don't know.
Right, and that's actually a good point because if we're secretly recording, then they can't warn us.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it's going to give them license to just tell everybody all the time to be back. But if you're doing the secret recording thing where you either just turn on your video and then you put your phone in your pocket so you get audio, that might be less triggering for them. That might be a situation where you're able to get information, document this situation as best you can without alerting them. So as far as I know, it's still okay to secretly film police. If they do suspect you of filming, then they're probably going to say, "Hey, get back 8 feet." But there have been multiple times where I've just like pretended like I didn't care what they were doing, or like I was doing something else. Yeah. I was, engaging with myself and I wasn't paying attention to them in order to be able to document a situation, without instigating them.
So somebody actually, like, this is one of it's happened before, but this is like one of the first times that I got on Instagram of cop watch. Somebody sent me a cop watch video. They were back more than 8 feet, and it's just like, it's something that we've tried to like get people to do, like, and teach you guys how to do so safely, and y'all are doing it. So thank you for, like this stuff is getting out there. They were documenting somebody being harassed at a bus stop. I have the footage. I'll release it when I get a chance. And like, they're just like, and the person asked me, is like, what are they doing to this person? What are they getting him for? Sophia, what do they get you for at bus stops?
I think the official charge is trespassing. I think they're being trespassed from bus stops when, like, you can't afford a bus pass. They'll do this thing. There's actually a whole division for Phoenix PD called the Transit Division, and it has its own cars and it has its own cops, and it's just solely devoted to criminalizing transportation. Here's a really good time to mention that Yasemin, the city council member for District 7, is like really failing at that, and we know that we're doing something right when she feels the pressure, right? She made this whole big post about all these lovely things she's doing. I won't go into it because I don't want to boost her any more than I have to, but like, these government officials who are supposed to represent our interests, they're not even like being loud whatsoever about the things that we want them to be loud about.
And like we tell them that this is literally all the police ever fucking do, is literally, this is all they do, guys. For everybody who's ever been on my TikTok arguing that the police save lives and shit and like stopping kidnappers, no, this is what they're doing. Literally harassing people, getting shade. That guy's sitting in the goddamn shade.
Actually, yeah, I got some photos too, just like cops like clearing people out from shade. And so I'm worried. I'm worried about the state of this state and city. I'm worried about what that looks like moving forward. I want to try to find actually that photo I have of cops just like moving someone out the shade the other day. And then so when you bring things like this up, they're always going to talk about like, oh, well, it's private property, Well, the truth is they're being removed from all property. It's not just private property. It's just complete anti-homelessness. And that's why you have people saying, well, we can't open, the gated grassy park that could literally save lives across the street. We can't do that because, there's a process to it, and, it doesn't work that easy, Sophia.
It's just like, just do it. The hell?
Well, it's just like when it comes in terms of people's lives, like, would it get done for any other population? So if there was an emergency and we had a fire and, there was a lot of people displaced. Like the things that happen as a result of like major disasters are often catered to like people who are housed, people who have money, people who will get mad and have loud voices if they're not taken care of, and rightfully so, because when things are like absolutely that desperate, we should be able to rely on some type of like social community effort to make sure that people aren't just immediately in the streets, right? And so we don't think like that for the people who are already in the streets, right? Didn't we learn that one time, like a person isn't declared missing if they've been unhoused? What was that situation with the woman looking for her sister?
Oh my God, yeah. How long was it? Oh gosh, I don't even remember. It had to be a minute. Like, was it a week or was it long?
It was, there was some stipulation where if you've been
I want to
homeless,
say 48 hours maybe.
if you've been homeless for a certain amount of time, like then you can't be declared missing. I had to go into that, but basically there's a whole separate set of rules.
It was the woman I made a post about that was missing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was looking for her sister, and they didn't help because her sister was unhoused.
Yeah, I have that somewhere in my file, so we can probably look that up and reference back to it next time.
Basically, it's a different set of laws that appeal to people who protect people who are who are housed, who are privileged, who have resources in order to make a big fuss when they're not taken care of. This is just like an ongoing theme with capitalism in general. It's like who is protected by the laws that exist.
I personally don't have footage of it, but I've recently heard a cop literally saying that it's not their problem.
Right, I do have footage of it.
I wasn't sure. I was trying to be sneaky. I wasn't sure if I could talk about
it. It's just like it's obvious. It's obvious, and like Lefty and I have been talking about this. But like we used to believe in reform. Like we used to believe that like the system could just be amended, or that there just needed to be like a certain campaign that hadn't been tried, or there was needs to be a training, or there needs to be more Black and brown cops. Yes. Like we can laugh about it now, but it's really not funny.
Some of our most issues been with two cops.
Right, cops, Black and brown cops. We don't need to go into that, but yes,
it's who they place inside of the zone.
The whole point is we used to believe like this, and we have a lot of people on both of our media accounts who are like, oh, the cops have to follow the ambulances to the zone. This is something I'm hearing.
I've had so many people. The biggest thing is it's been happening. No, it hasn't.
No, this is a new thing. Oftentimes, if there was like a shooting or something, police would be called to clear the situation like any other part of the city. But what's happening right now in the zone is very, very dangerous precedent. And I want to be very clear about that. It's very, very dangerous to have police accompany every medical emergency that happens in a certain area. Because I promise you, what they try on the least of us, on the least of this class system, it will escalate. It will get to a point where they're going to decide to not go into whole ass neighborhoods because of their safety, right? How many times has safety been used as an excuse to just fuck over poor people? And this is what's happening right now, especially when you have a population so prone to opioid abuse. Like when you are shamed, when you do not have housing, when you do not have a toilet, when you have severe trauma, like all of these things might lead people to use drugs chaotically. And when you have this emergency of these, fake fentanyl pills being produced, you don't get dosages right, and you have people overdosing in really fucking high numbers, and the heat exacerbates these situations.
Literally everything.
And so like you're gonna have a population needing to call 911 more often. How many times a day does Phoenix Fire Department respond to CAS? Is anyone good at records requests? Can anyone pick that up? Because that's really fucking important. I think that would shed a lot of light on what's happening here. But basically, you're incentivizing folks to not call 911 because they do not feel supported, because they might be criminalized, because they might be punished for asking for help. We weren't allowed to go into some areas in Chicago. If that happens here, it will be worse. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that is already happening somewhere, especially in a place that's majority Black people. Like
there was a couple of things. Amanda, chronically herbal. Hello, a former medic having police on scene is horrible. The police even arrest EMTs for doing their job. Somebody else said, and then yeah. They want to try to prevent people from getting medical care from Wuhan.
I think that's part of it. There's also been a couple of reports of like folks throwing stones or rocks or water bottles, I don't know what, at the fire department in the zone. And I want to tell you, I've seen people like cover themselves in their own shit in the zone. And I'm not saying that to be funny, like I'm trying to be real. It happens because you have such a high concentration of people with mental health issues. You literally have police picking them up all around the city and dropping them off. Please go look at the videos if you don't believe that's true. It's already documented. Don't want to argue about it. But you have all of this need and all of this desperation. You're literally creating situations that will produce conflict. Like there's no way around it. I'm actually surprised that like more shit
hasn't gone up. Well, that's because
doesn't go down in
that's
the zone.
literally so. I still drive the van every fucking week. I just don't have time to post about it. And honestly, it's like kind of like a low. It's I kind of like have my regulars. So I have these conversations with people there in the vans, and like literally people don't want the sweeps to happen so badly that they're literally kind of like
So
keeping each other in line. I don't really know how to explain it. Like they're and that's like creating all this stress as well. Like this pressure because people who can't do things, can't do this. It's just like constant pressure and pushing.
Before, let's take a step back because right, we can't speak for people specifically living in the zone, but we can speak for ourselves. So like sometimes let's just take it back from like macro down to like ground level. You and I, what makes us not show up in the best way possible?
I mean, obviously you didn't sleep enough. You didn't eat enough.
Ooh, yeah. When she's hungry, I don't even want to be around her. She's so much. Like, she turns into a something else. And she does. She turns into a something else. And so, like, that's just one thing. And you can imagine, like, people who are unhoused, they don't have control over, like, the food that they'll be getting or when they'll be getting it that consistently. So, yes, you do have meals being offered in the zone on a consistent schedule. That does not mean that people want to eat the food offered in the zone all the time. There's a lot of reasons why people would choose not to eat that food or choose not to engage with those institutions. And so not having eaten, not having slept well enough. What does a night of sleeping look like when you don't feel safe? When you are worried about your belongings being stolen? What does it look like to live when you're constantly being shamed for not having enough money? What does it look like to try to find a place to live again and again and again and coming up empty? What does it look like when you have to live with friends and family and you feel totally uncomfortable because you're housing insecure, you're dependent on them? It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And even like the nicest people who house you while you're housing insecure, like it doesn't feel like it's your space. It doesn't feel like you have a license to use the space in the same way. And these are even just the nicest situations, the nicest people who could be offering you that space. Like all of these things can lead to people to not show up in the best way, and you're creating the conditions that create conflict. I am not doing a good job at looking.
I am replying to all the comments.
You're replying to all the comments. But I just want to invite people. I feel like we've been talking for a minute, but I do want to invite people to think about the things that lead you to not show up in the best way possible. So food, sleep, you know.
Let me highlight something. Like I didn't really touch about it, but there was a couple of videos, you probably didn't see them. I know I post a lot, but I was riding a tricycle around with coolers in it for shits and giggles. So I wanted